Welcome to Coffee with Democrats, a sensible platform for progressive conversations. Coffee with Democrats is a grassroots movement dedicated to hearing from Democrats, candidates, legislators, and friends from all political backgrounds who want great conversations. Coffee with Democrats is committed to increase Democrat voter registration and Democrat voter turnout by making voting more exciting and meaningful. And now here's your host of Coffee with Democrats, Kevin Dawson.
Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Democrats. Today we have a special guest, Pam Hemphill. To just quickly summarize, Pam was involved personally in the January 6th insurrection. Pam was a devoted follower of former President Trump. Pam was MAGA. But I want everybody to think about the last two sentences and the most important words that I spoke to describe Pam. Was. Please bear with us as we speak with Pam and hear her story firsthand. This is a story of redemption. I truly believe this is a story of inspiration, a story that must be heard in order to spread the truth to other Trump-following Republicans within the MAGA movement. But it is also a story about Democrats and how we need to stay open-minded and be able to reach out to people who are defecting from MAGA and Trump. We as Democrats have to be able to live up to those noble words spoken by our president, Joe Biden, when he said, we are the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we act together. So as a couple of housekeeping rules that we have on here, we're asking people that are listening, please share this conversation to all of your social media and share to those people and tell them to listen to this conversation and to our special guest. And it's our honor and privilege to have with us today, Pam Hemphill. Pam, good morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure and it's our honor. So thank you for joining us. I've got a couple more housekeeping issues that I want to tell everybody about. You can follow Coffee with Democrats on Twitter. We're going to be on Twitter Live. We're going to be on Facebook Live, and we're going to be on YouTube Live. If you want to join us on YouTube Live, that's at Coffee with Democrats 7998. Again, that's @ Coffee with Democrats, all one word, 7998. If you want to join us on Facebook, just type in Coffee with Democrats and then look up the live link under Facebook Live. If you want to follow us on Twitter Live, go to @Coffee with Dems. That's @ Coffee with DEMS. We didn't have enough room there to spell out Democrats within the Twitter space. So again, this is Coffee with Democrats. So one of the first things we always start our conversations with, Pam, is we always like to talk about coffee. And we like to talk about that first thing, you know, if you drink coffee, what it is, if you have a coffee substitute, or you don't drink coffee, but you know, whatever it is that kind of gets you motivated first thing in the morning as a substitute for coffee. What is your coffee or coffee substitute?
My coffee substitute?
Or coffee substitute. Do you drink coffee first thing in the morning?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Got it here.
Do you like it? Do you like it black?
No, I like actually vanilla lattes.
Okay.
Those are my favorite. But no, coffee with cream and sweet and low, and yeah, a lot of cream.
Well, that you kind of follow into the way that we like it too. I'm with you. I love the taste of coffee, or I love the smell of coffee when it's brewing. I don't particularly like the taste of it unless it has a lot of sweetener and creamer added to it. So I butcher my coffee up pretty good. But so that kind of gives us a background. We do Coffee with Democrats because this is kind of similar to those conversations when you and I grew up. We're not that far apart in age. When we grew up, we'd go into the coffee shop or to the donut shop, we'd see that table over in the corner, the people that are having coffee and they're solving the world's problems. So that's what we want to have, is that conversation with you about, you know, we're going to solve some of the world's problems, but we're going to talk about your story. So again, we wish to thank you for joining us and spending your valuable time with us. And we're going to try to break this down into a couple of 1 hour duration sessions. So today, the first thing we're going to talk about is kind of talk about your background and your history and your motivation for joining with the Republican Party and becoming a follower of Donald Trump. And then, you know, what really got you involved with, you know, Make America Great Again. the MAGA movement. So I went to your website, and you've got a great letter on your Twitter space. It's pinned at the very top, and it talks about who you are. But I'm going to let you talk yourself. Tell us about Pam and how, what your story is. And as a cancer survivor, I really want to emphasize to people that this is that inspirational story that we need to find out, first of all, about the person. So tell us about you.
Well, me. Okay. Well, I've been in recovery myself as an alcoholic for 44 years.
Right.
And that is what got me involved in going back to school to become an alcohol and drug counselor.
Right.
So I had been doing that up until 2016, and then I retired. And that's when I got this call to go and do some community shows to help the heroin addicts. And because of that, the MAGA girls had heard about me and said, could you come out and interview people for us? And I thought, well, I'm retired. I was volunteering doing those community TV shows, and that was over. I said, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I went out there and started helping them. Excuse me. And then I came across this, I don't know, it wasn't news per se, but Democracy Now! Was talking about a protest up in North Dakota, I'm sorry. And it was the Standing Rock protest for the Native Americans, the largest and longest protest against the No DAPO pipeline.
Right.
And so I ran up there trying to think I could be a part of helping them. But when I came back, I found out that a lot of the stuff that was going on up there was not good. It was a lot of drifting, and there was a lot of problems. So I wrote a book about it. And then, just from there, going out to all these events, meeting I met everybody, from the governors and the governor's wife and senators, and talking to them. And then they had let's see, I think it was the Black Lives Matter came, and there was everything just seemed to happen so fast. Those 4 years I was out there, but that's how I kind of got involved. Mainly, I was bored,
Right. At the time, you were living in Idaho, in Boise. Is that correct?
Yeah, Boise, Idaho.
So, were you born and raised in Boise?
No, I was born and raised in California.
What part of California?
The South Bay area, Torrance, Manhattan Beach.
Okay. All right.
I lived in San Luis, huh?
The beautiful part of California.
Yeah.
You talk about the Bay Area.
Yeah, and raised in San Diego.
Okay.
As an adult in the LA area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and what was it that took you to Boise?
A job, actually.
Okay.
As an alcohol and drug treatment centers, a lot of them were losing their funding. So,
right.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into, your story about what got you involved in becoming a follower of Donald Trump. Have you always been a Republican for as long as you've been an adult, or?
Yes, I did, but I did vote for Obama. But see, I really wasn't into politics. I'm guilty of that. I didn't study nothing. I didn't pay attention. My family they were avid readers. They would give me the books all the time, and I just relied on them. I'm guilty. If it had an R, I just voted for him.
Okay.
I didn't even know anything about him, not at all.
But you said you did vote for Obama, though.
Yeah, I know. I got some heat for that one from my family.
Well,
what are you doing? You lost your mind.
So it sounds like the family dynamic was the whole family was Republican, not just So okay, so in 2015, Donald Trump made the announcement that he was going to run for president. Did you jump on board with that from the very beginning, or was it something that was over time that you joined in and became very involved with the Republican Party and following Donald Trump?
The way that unfolded was, again, listening to my family. But there were questions I had. I didn't like him from way back, the way he talked, before. But when you're talking to Republicans, as you see, they overlook these things. When you're questioning them, they go, oh, don't pay attention to that. That's no big deal. They minimize things about him.
Right. So I'm going to try to, I don't want to pin you into a corner. So don't think that I'm, trying to manipulate you in any way, but I do want to find out a little bit more about at what point did you find yourself saying, all right, I really want to get involved with this movement, because at some point you made the decision, I'm going to Washington, D.C. And there had to be some really motivating factors there that, for somebody to really be motivated to get a plane ticket, fly out to Washington, D.C., to be involved in something as big as, the Stop the Steal rally. There's got to be some real passion. Would you agree with that statement, or is that wrong of me to say that?
Well, my circumstance is a little bit different, but let me back up. See, when I was out there doing the videos for the Republican Party, like the Second Amendment protests and different things, I came across Ammon Bundy. Are you familiar with Ammon Bundy?
I'm not.
He's the rancher that held up the FBI.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Far right. Well, when I went there to videotape, because he invited the community to one of his talks, and what he was doing was setting up people's rights. And it's kind of like it was an organization, and they're huge now. They're all over the United States. If I'm in trouble and I believe that law enforcement is treating me unfairly, I can call you and you'll come out with like 100 people or more,
right,
and stop them from arresting me. But I didn't know all those details that day. But I turned to Bundy and I said, look, I don't break the law. And he says, neither do I. And he's Mormon, extremely religious. And then he was explaining how the government's trying to take over and make this a communist nation. And that scared me. And I don't know anything about politics. I don't know about the far right. I didn't even learn that till later. What's the far right?
Yeah.
But there's a big difference. And that's how I kind of got into it. But with January the 6th, what had happened, I had been diagnosed with breast cancer, had to go have surgery. And in about 2 weeks, I think it was going to be January 12th or something, to start my chemotherapy.
Okay.
So my brother called and said, how would you like a Christmas gift? And we'll send you there to Washington, D.C., because that's all you're doing is out there videotaping. This may be the last time you'll have a chance to videotape Trump. And I said, oh, I'd love to do that. That would be fun, like a little vacation. And I was going to spend time there, seeing the Lincoln Memorial, and just enjoy myself, and then come back and start my chemotherapy.
And so you became involved at that point. You flew to Washington, D.C. You were living in Boise at the time, right?
Yeah.
So you went from Idaho clear across country, which I don't begrudge anybody for going to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a beautiful place. Each time I visited, I'll always walk away thinking I need to spend more time in Washington, D.C. because the institutions of our government and the institutions of our history, the Smithsonian, all that stuff, the monuments there, Jefferson Monument, the Lincoln Monument, Washington Monument, all of those iconic places that you and I grew up with, and even the Capitol and the White House, those are important places that we hold dear and near and dear to our heart. And I'm guessing you're the same way. So I don't begrudge anybody for going to Washington, D.C. at any time, because we should go out there and enjoy what our government has provided for us. And as a citizen of the nation, that's the Capitol. We need to be proud of our Capitol. And so the idea was you were going to go and listen to Donald Trump speak. So that you arrived on January 5th?
Yeah, but let me back up I don't want people to get the wrong impression. My mindset by this time was deep MAGA.
Okay.
I mean, now back then there was no like MAGA. Yeah, I'm just using that now because everybody understands what MAGA is.
Right.
But I was convinced totally 100%, 120,000%
Okay.
that the Democrats wanted to turn this into a communist nation. So I made this post on Facebook. It's a war.
Right.
Now,
Right.
what had happened is I met a congressman that told me if 300 people come out on a, in a protest, oh, I don't really pay much attention. But if 3,000 come out, I'll actually come out and start talking to you guys. So I put a post up. We need 1 million people. It sounds horrible. Oh my. And then there's a picture of me holding this plastic toy gun.
Right.
It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a New Year's party.
Right.
And that's been used against me. But they did that picture because I had a reputation of yelling at you. I don't believe that you should carry an AR to a Capitol protest. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so that they did that as a joke. And that's embarrassing, that picture, but it is a toy gun.
And that
nobody could hold a gun.
That was posted on your Facebook account, is that right?
Yeah, oh, it's been everywhere, all
Everywhere.
the news.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about going there to be violent in my mind.
Right.
That's just the words they were using at the time. War,
Sure.
fight. And now I'm very careful about using any of those words anymore.
And I have to agree with you on that because, words matter. And
Words matter.
And so just for transparency, I did go out, since you and I first talked, I have read your letter and you're asking to go before Congress. I also went back and I looked up your Department of Justice file. And so I've got all of the Department of Justice files. I've read through all that. I've read through many, many articles. You've been interviewed by the New York Post, Washington Post. I mean, it's CNN. You've been on so many different talk shows and news reports. So your story is kind of familiar to me, but it may not be familiar to a lot of other people that are here. So I'm going to kind of, try to move us into having that conversation because I really want to talk about January 6th a little bit longer because it kind of builds, we've got to understand the narrative of motivation, what was going on with you at the time leading up to January 6th. So, if we can talk a little bit more about, what you just talked about again, and then also talk more about what took place on January 6th, because I think when we get to that, that's going to be a big chapter of your story is what took place on January 6th. And then after January 6th, because, you didn't just immediately turn away from this. It took time for you to understand what was going on. So, continue to talk a little bit more about, you were building up, you've got to fight for the nation. Did you have one of those red hats that has, Make America Great Again or MAGA or anything like that? You're always wearing a cap. I do notice that every time I see a picture of you, you do have a cap on. So, what was, did you hang around with a lot of people? And, when you were doing your films and your videos, were you hanging around with a lot of people that were really adamant followers of Donald Trump and thinking that the nation had already been stolen, the election was stolen away from him?
Oh yeah. And in fact, see what happens with your critical thinking, that tends to get, you get gaslighted so much, you tend to lose that. But sure. I noticed the t-shirts and the flags of Trump. That was like kind of weird. I started noticing, even though I wore a t-shirt, Trump 2020.
Right.
But no, once in a while a Trump hat, but mine had on that day, we the people have had enough or something like that. Right. I was just so convinced, you got to just keep this in mind, that the Democrats were going to take away our freedoms. They wanted to turn it into, they were going to take our right to believe in God. It's the opposite of everything that we know today. But
I see.
And I was wanted to be a part of promoting to stop this. Now, of course, with the system, not with pushing gates and pushing officers. But I wanted to be a part of that. I didn't want Democrats taking over our country.
Right.
I mean, like right now, we don't want the Republicans, but because you know, when I went into a space, Democrats and Republicans sound the same.
Sure.
Okay, now we argue about issues, but the fear that Democrats are taking over and that Republicans are. But we got receipts and proof, or should I say evidence, that the Republicans really do want to turn this into a communist country, and that's Project 2025.
Yeah, and I was getting ready to mention that too, that we need to spend some time talking about that later on.
Okay.
But as we kind of build the timeline going into in chronological order of what was taking place, January 5th, you flew into Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And did you arrive early enough in the day to be able to go out and sightsee and spend some time with the crowds that were starting to gather on January 5th?
Yeah, I got there probably 5 and then got changed in some clothes and started walking down the street. They said they were going to have speakers that night on the 5th. So I found that, and that was difficult because it was kind of too crowded. But I spent maybe till midnight, because they were there was a little group of Black Lives Matter being protected by the police officers, and they were arguing because they wanted to go confront the Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But it was kind of chaotic, but nothing that stood out for me. Just everybody walking down the street screaming and yelling and saying, about Antifa, how they talk.
Right.
And then the next morning, because, plane fights, they tire me. I got up too late and I didn't get down to where Trump was speaking till like 10 o'clock, and it was kind of too late. It was packed.
Right.
And I knew with having stitches, I couldn't get through a crowd like that. I could get injured by accident.
Right.
So I started walking around videotaping and asked people, is there any other speakers today? And they said, well, I heard that Trump's going to go down to the Capitol. And I thought, why would he be going? He's having a talk right now. It's kind of like, okay, well, maybe I thought, now remember, this sounds, because see, I wasn't into politics. I didn't even know the transfer of power was happening that day.
Oh, okay.
And why would Trump have us there that day anyway? That would be, I may not have gone.
Right.
But because there's that little piece of you that, well, it's a big protest. What if there's some kind of craziness that goes on? But I thought, well, the Proud Boys will be there, though. They won't allow anybody to do anything. Right? God, my thinking at the time. But then what happened? I started walking down towards the Capitol, and I saw the fences are all there with signs. So I thought, excuse me, on my video, you could hear me saying, oh, no, we're not going to be able to get up there and hear Trump. And then I said, well, I'm glad that there's fences because we got crazy people.
Right.
No clue, at the time. So I see the Proud Boys coming. I don't know they're Proud Boys, but I figured it out. A huge group of these men. So I walked up to them and I said, are you the Proud Boys? And they said, yeah. I said, are we going inside the Capitol? Because my thinking was that Trump's going to be there inside the Capitol, and that they're going to probably be there with him, because he said, stand back, stand by,
Right.
And he says, no, ma'am, we're not going inside the Capitol. I thought, well, where's Trump going to be then, So I just started videoing them, walked with them for about 40 minutes. We ended up on the east side.
I see.
And they're just standing around. And I thought, well, I don't know what they're doing, but I better get up front because Trump's going to be probably up front. And I want to be up front so I can video. See, in my mind that day, it was all about capturing what was going on because I had, 38,000 Facebook followers. Everybody was watching.
Right.
And I get up there, and William Dunphy, I found out his name. He's been arrested. He was talking to an officer, and I said, what are you guys talking about? And he says, well, they're negotiating. They weren't negotiating, but that's what he told me, to move the barriers and let us go up front. And I thought, oh, that would be great. Okay, I'll get ready for that. Well, I had a lot of pain. I took half a pain pill, and I didn't realize what pain pills will do to you. So I was like being a little drunk, you know what I mean?
Right.
they start pushing on the barriers. So what I'm thinking, you know how you're in a hurry to get through a concert
Right.
or a football game, the crowd pushes.
Right.
So that's what I thought was happening. And I'm panicking though, because it's like, come on, you guys, be careful here. And an officer pulls me over. So I'm thinking they're letting us in, right? I go around telling everybody, come on in, it's your house. Because I'm a little, because even my brother, when he looked at the video, he said, were you drinking? I said, no, I taken a pain pill. Because you could tell, I'm not using it for an excuse.
Okay.
I'm just explaining. It's no excuse. It's
Right.
just explaining how I got confused. And then I went to the female officer and she says, I asked her what's going on because nobody's coming in. She says, no, they're not letting them in. I said, oh my God. My heart went to my feet. I thought, oh my God, thank God nobody listened to me. And so they put me back to the same spot. And I'm telling her, I don't want to go back to that spot. You know, and now I see what's going to happen. But they put me back there within a half a minute. They did it again. And the same officer, that's why I want to meet the officers, pulled me over again. I run to another officer. I tell him what the problem is. I can't get in that crowd because I have stitches. He says, run to the steps. I'll call in and tell them to put you behind them. So I get down the steps. They push me towards an officer. I could have landed right on that officer. Oh my God. But I was thinking real quick and I pushed myself back. So I landed on my back. They stepped on my head, pulled out my shoulder, cut my knee, broke my glasses. I was a mess. Yeah, these patriots, right?
Right.
Stepping
Right.
on a 69-year-old woman. And then again, the officers pulled me up and put me behind them. So that's why I want to see them. I owe them my life for that day.
Right. Right.
They are the heroes, not the J6 criminals is what I call them.
Right. So, as the day goes on, when did you finally decide to leave the Capitol?
Well, you know what happened? I'm sitting there for about 20 minutes, finally got my air. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if I should go to the hospital. I get up and I see that officers have been being pepper sprayed. And I'm thinking, how's that happening? Oh my God. So I went to the captain and talked to him. And he says, I said, we need National Guard. And he says, I'm trying to get through. I can't get anybody to call me back. And I thought, well, that's probably true at that time. You know, everybody was probably freaking out what to do. And then I said, can I help him? Because I want to put water in the police officer's eyes. He said, no, because I'm a citizen. They can't allow that. But I watched that. That was very painful. And then I saw people coming in and out of the door. And I thought, I want to go inside. I want to see what's going on. Because now they're letting them in, is what I thought. If you could see the video. But I'm not thinking, now I just beat myself up because there's people behind me. And I'm thinking if I can get my video in front of the officers, there's two of them at the door, and ask, are we being allowed to come in? And have it on the video. Yes, it's legal. Because I wasn't going to get stuck again like I did the first time with that barrier.
Right.
Thinking I got shoved in. And I said on my video, I don't want to go this far. I got shoved in, sat down, and then they come later and they're trying to get everybody to leave. I got behind the officers on the other side, sat down. Officer saw me. I told him my situation, and that's what I got in trouble for with the prosecutor. She said I took from the officer's duty that day, but I was scared. I had 40 stitches, you know. And I said, can you get me out of here? I cannot go back in that crowd. They've stepped on me. They're crazy. You know, they were getting violent, pushing people. And so he did. He took me out. And that was the mistake. I should have left. However, I'm walking, I'm trying to figure out where to go. And I see the Buffalo Man, Jacob Chansley.
Right.
And I said, oh, I got to videotape this. So I did. And then we went to the front of the door. He had a speaker on his phone with that message from Trump to tell everybody to leave. So I videotaped him doing that. And then he leaves. I stay. You think I'm a Marine with an AR. I'm standing there with my arms. I said, I was cussing at him. Get out of here. You're not going to do this anymore. And then I left.
Okay.
It was 3 hours trying to find my room. I forgot where my motel room is.
I remember reading, you said that you were lost at that point. You
I
needed
was
some help to
lost.
get back to the hotel.
Oh, everybody was giving me, I saw 30 FBI agents, talked to one of them. They said, you go this way, that way. Everybody was giving me the wrong directions. It was horrible. Then I called my friend. She tried to help me on the phone. Yeah, 3 hours of trying to get back to my room. It was horrible. And my legs, I've been already injured. My knee, it was awful.
But, I'm going to go off script for just a little bit. My wife is a breast cancer survivor like yourself. She came down with breast cancer in 2008, had surgery, double mastectomy, bilateral in 2009. Went through horrible chemotherapy, radiation, reconstructive surgery that just about killed her. She's lucky to be alive, and I have all the empathy and sympathy in the world for everything that you were going through at the time. And it seems like that, somebody who is in that kind of pain probably shouldn't have been in Washington, D.C. to begin with. But again, every person is different. What my wife went through, I can't compare that with what you were going through. So it's not proper for me to judge and say, well, you shouldn't have been there. Because,
no, I shouldn't.
But again, you have to make up that mind yourself and make that decision about going there. But getting back on, I'm sorry.
Well, my brother would never put me in harm's way. We both believed it would be safe for most part. Stay out of any. If you saw anything going, you got to use your common sense. And stay by the police officers. It was going to be safe. So,
right.
How would you know?
Right. So there's some conversation that you had went to a rally or went to hear Alex Jones.
No.
You did not see or listen to Alex Jones while he was there?
Oh, you mean the night before?
Right.
You're talking about, I was thinking that separate some other time. Yeah, I think I heard him. I think I got a little clip. There was so many people, I couldn't get up close enough to videotape him. I heard something. I could hear his voice talking.
Okay.
But that's where there was a whole bunch of speakers there that night.
Have you been a follower or, somebody who listens to his program on a regular basis or anything like that?
No, I never liked Alex Jones. In fact, even the QAnon, I didn't like. To me, I'm sorry, but they sounded like mentally ill people. Some of these conspiracies, right. I thought there's something wrong with those kind of thoughts. And Alex Jones now.
Okay.
He's just entertainment, but then it just, at the time I didn't understand the warfare we have with disinformation.
Sure.
I didn't even.
Sure. Well, at this point, we've kind of built the story up to what took place on January 6th. I think the next part of the story is getting back home and then finding out that you're now wanted, that the FBI is out looking for you now, and that somebody on your Facebook turned you in because you had posted some things on.
No.
That's not correct. Okay.
No. I was friends with Jeff and Mike. They guard the governor in Boise, Idaho. So that night I called him and I said, I'm hearing that people are getting arrested. Now, at the time, I didn't feel like I'd done anything wrong because I got shoved in, right?
Right.
I mean, I hadn't purposely gone in. I wanted to go in, but I didn't purposely. So I didn't think I was in trouble at the time. And I called Mike and I said, what do I do? I'm hearing people. Do I call the FBI? And he said, no, let me look everything up. And if they're looking for you, I'll tell you and we can take it from there. So he called back in an hour and said, no, you're fine. I'll keep an eye out for you, though. We had a relationship because when I was videotaping in Boise, Idaho, I caught a man putting with a knife on our Liberty Belt, FUCKUSA, and I caught him.
Oh.
So I turned him into the Capitol Police, and we started a relationship where we could communicate if I saw anything illegal at certain times. And that went on for a couple of years with Mike and Jeff, always talking to them and making sure that these events were safe.
So
even though I was there with Bundy.
you're right. So going back to January 6th, you finally make it back to the hotel room. Do you leave on the 7th to fly back home?
Yeah, the next morning.
The next morning. Okay. So you fly back home. How many days, weeks, months later did you find out that you were being, that you were being looked for, somebody was looking for you?
Well, I was making sure, well, Mike was going to contact me immediately if he sees anything. So I just I was so paranoid. I decided this sounds like something out of a movie. You're not going to believe this, but it's 100% what happened. I thought, I'm going to go see a lawyer. I might as well see a lawyer to see what I need to do.
Right.
And show him my videos. And if he's, get prepared. Because at the time, I'm just not thinking about trespassing and what do they call it, picketing and parading. I don't know about the laws. Well, this is the weirdest thing. When I went to see him, and that he gets my videos overnight, and then the next day when I go to pick him up, they're in a building next door behind a fire extinguisher, in the glass.
Right.
A fire in the hallway of a building.
Right.
He had put them behind there. It was weird. So I go back, I get him, I go back to his office. I said, that was weird, a weird spot to put him in. He says, well, I need to tell you, I used to work for the FBI. I said, oh. Well, the prosecutor later and my attorney tried to find him because I had his business card to, let him know that I'm not a person that runs from police. I went to get help to find out what should I do. Well, they couldn't contact him. They couldn't get him. While I'm still going through the court process, I'm in the store and there he is. And I said, look I need you to call my lawyer and the prosecutor because they want to talk to you. And he says, I don't know who you are.
Oh.
I don't know who you are. Freaked me out, but I took a picture of him.
Right.
It was weird. It's kind of like out of a movie. Huh? It's
Right,
really,
right.
You don't know who I am. So something was weird about that whole, but what was the question? I kind of went off there.
Well, I want to know when I'm kind of building up to the point where at some point you were either arrested or you turned yourself into the FBI and then they started doing your interviews.
Well, I think I'm only guessing. This is a guess because Boise, Idaho, every officer knew Pam Hemphill. They would see me somewhere and go, hi, Miss Hemphill. I said, how do you know my name? Everybody knows you, Pam, in a good way. I had a good reputation with the law enforcement. But I believe that they knew I was doing chemotherapy and allowed me to finish because I had to do, and radiation. Because the day they arrested me, they knew about my last appointment for radiation. I had one more appointment left.
Okay. So you got arrested and arraigned and got a mug shot and all that stuff done, and that was all in Boise?
Yeah, but let me share a little bit about that because they tried to put out a story that the 69-year-old grandma, they didn't use my name, had been dragged down the stairs by the FBI. And oh, what a lie.
Right.
What a lie. They came there was about 7, I'm guessing right now. In my little Chihuahua, we opened the door and they were nice. And I said, well, I'm glad you're here. Get this over with because you're living and not knowing if you're going to be arrested or not. And that's you can't sleep.
How long after January 6th was that? We're talking about maybe 2 months, 3 months?
No, this is approximately 8 months.
8 months. Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
No, it was a while because I had to do the chemotherapy.
So your chemotherapy lasted a lot longer than my wife's. My wife's was like 3 months for chemotherapy.
Well, I had 4 of them, and you wait every 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then radiation.
I see.
I don't know how long. That was like 3 months or something. Every day.
Right. Yeah, Joanne, my wife, she had chemotherapy every Thursday, every week.
Oh,
And
really? No, mine
for,
was every three weeks.
yeah, hers was pretty aggressive. So that's the reason why they had to treat her the way that they did. That's why I'm kind of getting in I didn't get in my head why it was taking so long 8 months later, because your
Yeah.
chemo was extended for a lot longer than what I've been, what I have
Well,
experienced. So,
radiation too.
right. Yeah.
Including
Yeah.
radiation. That was after chemo, radiation's last.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they
That's the
come
way
to
it
my
was
door.
that's the way it was with my wife as well. She had to do the radiation afterwards too. And, it just, just for transparency and just for anybody who's listening, the breast cancer is one of the most devastating cancers for anybody, but particularly for women. It has got to be the most god awful thing anybody has got to experience. It's degrading. And it takes your identity away, and it's something that it not only impacts you physically, but it impacts a lot of women mentally, and you just have a lot of issues that you have to take care of. And radiation and chemotherapy that we were talking about, those things are very invasive, and they have very negative effects, not only on your mental capacity, but as well as your physical well-being. I mean, because they're really trying to kill you. The chemotherapy is trying to kill you, at the same time trying to stay alive. And then the radiation is to come in there and finally get into the molecular structure and change that so that it'll never come back. But so that's just my understanding of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a clinician, but somebody who's been exposed to it, I can have complete empathy with what you've gone through and what you had to go through. So you did get arrested. Again, changing your story, changing back to what we were originally talking about. You did get arrested, and again, that was. Did they say, all right, at this point, you need to go down to the FBI office or to the county courthouse, or?
No, they came to my door.
Okay.
There was probably 7. And I said, I'm glad you're here. We'll get this over with. And I was so scared. Oh, I was so scared. And they treated me really good. They were very professional. I had to go in the bathroom because I had pajamas on with a female officer, and I'm in there and I'm crying and I'm saying, I've never been arrested. I'm scared.
Right.
And she said, don't worry, you'll be out by 1 o'clock. And she treated me like a sister, or like a girlfriend. Really nice. Professional though.
Right.
She didn't break any boundaries, professional boundaries. But her whole attitude was filled with compassion. She
Good.
understood. And then the whoever it was that was in charge, that I said, look, I vape. You know what vaping is?
Right.
It's not smoking. I said, I got a vape. He says, go ahead, Miss Hemphill.
Yeah.
I said, can I use my phone, tell my brother what's happening? He says, no, you can't do that. But everything I asked them, they said, okay, too, except for the phone. But I can't thank them enough for how they treated me.
Okay.
It really made it so much easier. And they didn't handcuff me, and they didn't drag me down those stairs. That's all lies.
Okay. So you got arraigned at that point, and that again, you can fill in the gaps. Was that at the county courthouse or?
That's down at the FBI.
At FBI office. Okay. Did they detain you at that point in their detainment center that they've got?
Yeah, first they questioned me a little bit, and then I went to their jail because it was the FBI building.
Right.
And it's downstairs in a basement.
Okay.
And booked me, and I stayed in there. Oh, that was so frightening. I've never been locked up. Oh, nobody wants to go through that. And then I saw a judge.
How long were you locked up?
I'm guessing 3 hours, maybe.
Oh, okay. So you were there for 3 hours, and then you went to the judge the same day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then they took me to see the judge. Some lawyer came in, talked to her first, and then the judge, and then I was released. I got out on time to do my radiation appointment.
Okay. So did you have to post bail?
No.
Okay.
No bail.
You were let out on your own recognizance then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have any criminal record.
Sure, sure. So a trial date was set. How long out was the trial date set for?
Well, it's still kind of my memory about all the timelines on that, but it was really pretty quick. And then they assigned me a lawyer. I got a great attorney, and I think it took a while. I don't know, 8 months later or so to
Right,
have it all done. But you do get due process because the J6 defendants lie about that,
right.
saying they're not getting due process. That's not true.
So you did go to you did go to court. How long did the actual trial itself last?
Well, I didn't go to trial.
Okay,
Yeah, and it was always on Zoom.
okay.
So that was good. I think that had to do with still covert issues,
COVID, yeah.
covert. I always say it wrong. But yeah, that was at home.
Okay,
It's still foggy on the timeline for me, but it took a little while. It's just a process. There's one hearing then another hearing. But I pleaded, they offered the one charge, picketing and parading. My
right.
attorney says, that's the lowest you can get. And I said, yeah, let's do it. I'm guilty anyway. What am I going to do? Go to trial and try to say I'm innocent? Give me a
Right.
break.
So you had, at that point, you had to turn yourself in and you went to prison. And I think this would be a good time for us to take a break, and we can come back tomorrow, because
Okay.
we've been on here going for quite a long time. I mean, it's going on
Yeah.
about an hour. So we need to take a break, and we'll join up tomorrow about 11 o'clock my time, noon your time. And then we can talk about going to jail. And then let's talk about after you got out of jail and things like that. So until tomorrow,
Okay.
I'll send you another link for tomorrow. And thank you so much for being on with us on Coffee with Democrats. I greatly appreciate you, Pam.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you tomorrow.
Okay.